Hello everyone, I am once again joined by my good buddy Jeremy right here. Say hi everybody.
Hi.
And today, actually, this is going to be a special video. This is not going to be just like one video. It's going to be like about Ed Wood's movies. One of the worst, but yes, best filmmakers ever made. What do you think of Ed Wood?
He was quite a character. He had all the passion and none of the talent.
True. The guy just made movies no matter like what. He just did it because it made him happy and he was satisfying himself, not others.
Correct.
Yes. And to start off with, we're going to talk about Glenn or Glenda, his first film that he ever directed. Basically was inspired by the Christine Jorgensen sex reassignment. What do you think of Glenn or Glenda?
It's a pretty terrible movie, but also kind of a fascinating one.
It is, but it's kind of like fucked up and like, what the hell am I like watching kind of movie? Especially like, they don't explain like Lugosi's like character, whether he's like a narrator or is he like a puppet master that's controlling the character.
It's not really explained.
It's not, no, but you gotta admit, they were kind of progressive for the time period when this movie came out back in the 50s. Like, how often did you see a movie like this about transgender or sex change?
Not often.
No. Especially I can like make the argument that it's sort of aged well, but at the same time, it's still not a good movie because think about like recent modern day with the transgender community that like is going on in today's community world. Yeah. And also, obviously, Ed Wood based this movie on his life experience as a transvestite.
Yeah, this was a very personal project to him. It was semi-autobiographical.
Yeah, true. Also, let's see. Originally, they wanted to call it I Changed My Sex, or I Led Two Lives, which the first one would have made a lot of sense, but I don't know about the second one that much, maybe.
I don't know about the second one, but yeah, the original title was I Changed My Sex.
That could have worked too. It could have.
Although really it's only a sex change picture for the last few minutes.
Yeah, true.
Most of it is about a man named Glenn who likes to wear women's clothes. Right. It's also got some pointless footage of bondage. And,
actually, believe it or not, that was the first time they used a BDSM in a film.
Really?
Especially for the 50s. You would think that they would not do something like that back in that time. You were going to say, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, yeah, that was like a dream sequence. It's pretty pointless.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, what does that have to do with him wanting to wear women's clothes?
Right, or that, or like when you show like footage of like some like random like farm animals, like what does this got to do with, or they even like use like World War II footage again. What does this got to do with it? It's not explained, but
Bela Lugosi's dialogue makes no sense.
It doesn't.
Neither does the footage of the stampeding buffalo.
No, it doesn't. It's like, am I watching a documentary on transvestite sex change, or am I watching a documentary about like the animal wildlife or something from like the Animal Channel or something? Yeah. Also, like this film is not that good. It's just pointless. Doesn't make. I mean, okay, maybe it's got like some points to it, but it's just like not done well or executed properly. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think deep down, Ed Wood was looking for acceptance.
True. Especially like how like at that time that was like not. It wasn't a time period ever say to come out like saying that you feel like you're a man, but yet you're a woman in heart or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I also read that there was never. He wanted to make a sequel to this originally, but
really,
yes, but although the character was used in like some of his novels that he wrote, like Killer and Drag, 63 Serial Killer, or Death of a Transvestite. I never read those books, so I can't really make a comment on those.
Got it.
Yeah. Also, like let's see, and also Ed Wood. I hate to say it, he can't act. No, he's not a good actor, and neither was his girlfriend at the time, Dolores Fuller, and it was not that good either. But yeah, especially how he was afraid to tell his it's basically based on his life because he's afraid to tell his fiance about
his transvestism.
Yes, in this movie she took it well, and whereas in real life she did not take it very well.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's see, what else I want to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, there's really not much else I have to say about it, do you?
Not really.
Yeah, okay, I guess onward soon to our next one, Bride of the Monster. Now on to Bride of the Monster, Ed Wood's another Ed Wood film that he directed is considered one of his worst films. But actually, he did another film prior called Jailbait, which I've heard of. I've never seen it. Have you heard of it or seen it?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, me either. So we can't really make a comment on that one. And plus, we're only sticking to like the basic, like well-known of like Ed Wood's movies. Bride of the Monster. What do you think of Bride of the Monster?
It's pretty bad, but it's entertaining at least.
Yeah. I find it to be very like boring and like just like not interesting. Like I remember the first time I saw this when I was a teenager after seeing Tim Burton's Ed Wood film. I checked this out. I think I only like watched about maybe 20 or 15 minutes. I don't remember exactly. Like the first couple minutes I saw of it, I wasn't liking it. I turned it off and didn't really bother to finish it. But I watched it for this Ed Wood retrospective, and it's still not that good of a movie. Nothing much has changed for me since I've last seen this film.
Well, Bela Lugosi is at least fun to watch, especially during his big speech scene.
Yeah. I forgot to mention the last one about like Glenn around this time period that like Bela Lugosi was really like hit rock bottom at this point in his career. He was addicted to morphine. Nobody like wanted to work with him because of being typecast as Dracula around that time period.
Yeah, he was an alcoholic too.
Yeah, just so sad. Yeah. This was Bela Lugosi's last speaking role at the time.
That's right.
Yep. And he had trouble remembering his words. It probably was the drugs, probably. That's why his memory was probably going...
I don't think he had trouble remembering them.
Well, that's what it said, right? Well, what I read according to, like, well, from, like, facts I read about.
When they shot his famous speech scene, Ed Wood wanted him to use cue cards, but he refused, and he told Paul Marco not to show them to him during the filming of the scene. And
right.
When they shot the scene, he never looked over once for any cue cards, and when Ed Wood called cut, the whole crew got up and applauded. Right,
interesting. And believe it or not, despite like Ed Wood's like films like being like financial like box office disasters, this was considered to be like his most financially successful film, surprisingly. And also, it's interesting how like a lot of fans like seem to love this film because of Bela Lugosi's performance in this film.
Yeah. He's portraying an outcast, which was what he was in Hollywood at the time.
Right. I actually read that, like, it's interesting. There's a scene, like, where he's talking to, like, an old friend from his old country that he's from, that they don't explain, like, where his character from, like, why he left. But you know what I find interesting about this film? It has, like, Cold War themes, but it's hard to, like, take it seriously, because around this time, there were much better, like, horror sci-fi films of, like, Cold War themes, like The Day the Earth Stood Still, The War of the Worlds, The Fly, The Blob, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah, this film is just, like, not, like, properly executing about, like, nuclear war or nuclear weapons or anti-war kind of message. It's not, like, done so well, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Also, like, Tor Johnson plays, like, Lobo. He was, like, a poor man's version of like, the Frankenstein monster. Well, in fact, the whole entire film is, like, a poor man's version of, like, White Zombie and Dracula or Island of Lost Souls combined, or even like the previous Universal, like the laboratory scenes, and like remember like especially the way the movie ends. Remember how like in the original, like from the first Frankenstein Bride, like all ended in like lab explosions, or even like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, Ghost of Frankenstein, and yeah.
The explosion happens at the end, and the lightning hits the water, which makes absolutely no sense.
It doesn't. Well, you know what he's even like worse bad about is that like Lugosi's death scene. It's so like bad. You can tell like the octopus is not even like moving; that he's moving the octopus himself.
Well, that's how it was with all the octopus victim deaths. You know, they stole the octopus from a studio, but they forgot to steal the motor that ran it. Right. So when it came time for the actors to get killed by the octopus, they just wiggled it around a little.
Yeah, originally this was like had different revisions called The Atomic Monster or Monster of the Marshes, which I have no idea like how those titles would even make any sense for this movie. And originally Dolores Fuller was going to play Janet, but instead that other actress plays Janet instead. And
yeah, that's because she supposedly offered Wood some money.
Right, But if, and obviously, like, their chemistry, like, in that brief moment is, like, not good. Like, it's not explained. They're friends, they know each other well, or, there's not a good, like, chemistry.
She's not very good in the movie.
Dolores Fuller or Janet.
The one who plays Janet.
The actress. I
forget her name.
Yeah, so do I. I'll just leave a link in the description for that, and or as I edit this video. The character's name in this movie that Loretta King played in this movie was called Janet Lawson. And yes, I'll admit, I agree with Jeremy on this one. She's a very bland, forgetful character. She has no personality and her arc is poorly written. Also, like, the opening scene, like, did you ever see The Old Dark House with Boris Karloff? Well, the opening scene kind of reminds you of something out of The Old Dark House, where these, like, people are, like, you know, middle of nowhere, abandoned, like, in the woods, and they come across this old dark house, they knock on the door, and little they know what's behind closed door. This is a mad scientist who created an evil giant monster. Well, not a giant monster, an evil monster in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what else I want to talk about this. Let's see. Oh yeah, I feel like the chemistry between Jen and her boyfriend or fiance, whatever they are, is just like so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. They kind of remind, like, in some ways, like, she was like some kind of like investigative reporter. She was like a poor man's woman of Lois Lane to some degree, when you think about it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I guess, let's see. Anything else you want to touch upon this film that comes to mind, or?
Well, you know, I think this movie shows that even in his worst films, Bela Lugosi tried to give the best performance he could.
That's true, especially how, like, even, like, no matter what film Bela Lugosi did, he always made the best of everything, no matter what film it was, especially how he was a trained stage actor before he was a Hollywood actor.
He made the best of a bad situation.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Even, like, in these films in the end, when he was, like, really desperate and hungry for success again, what he had in the early years of the Hollywood studio, and he did Dracula, and
he needed the work.
Yeah, well, like everyone needs the work and a job, and everyone needs a paycheck to survive and live in this life. Yeah. Also, besides, as I said before, this is like a poor man's version. His character's like a poor man's version of like different mad scientists, and it was also like the part when he like controls Jen. It reminded me a little bit of like I Walked with a Zombie. Did you ever see that by Val Lewton?
No,
or you've heard of it?
No, I don't think I've heard of it.
Okay, well, it's another like zombie film, but not a flesh-eating zombie. It's more again like voodoo, mind-controlling zombie film, like kind of similar to White Zombie.
Really?
Definitely check it out at some point.
Okay.
All right, that just wraps up Bride of the Monster. Moving on to his very well-known, famous one, Plan 9 from Outer Space. As I said before, now on to Plan 9 from Outer Space, his well-known, very worst film that he ever made in the history of cinema, considered the Citizen Kane of worst movies ever made. And what do you think of Plan 9 from Outer Space?
It's a pretty terrible movie.
Oh yeah, it is. It's really bad. I haven't seen this movie since I was like a teenager. Like I said, around the time after watching Tim Burton's Ed Wood film, I was curious to check out his movies to see like how bad they were, and this is quite the essential of bad movies.
Yeah, there's terrible acting, terrible special effects, a nonsensical story.
Right.
It's just bad all around.
Oh, it is. It's horrible. And it's just so sad. Like, this was Bela Lugosi's last film before he died. He died during the making of the film, and then they had to replace him with, they got his girlfriend's chiropractor, Dr. Tom Mason, to, like, fill in for the Lugosi, Dracula, vamp, whatever the ghoul, I don't know, whatever the heck he is. The point is, he looks not even close to Bela Lugosi, Tom Mason.
Correct, although when Ed Wood shot the footage with Bela Lugosi, they didn't have a script in mind. He was just shooting some footage of him. They later incorporated that into Plan 9.
Right.
With, you know, the other scenes using the double.
Right. Then also, like, you ever notice, they, like, recycle, like, footage of, like, the Lugosi shot in a cemetery, like, a few more times in this movie. Yeah.
One point you see real Lugosi in daylight, and then it cuts to fake Lugosi at nighttime.
Yes. Well, then again, the film goes for, like, day for night, which makes no sense.
Yeah. In one scene, you even see the double for Lugosi, like, the cape drops, and he has to pull it back up. It's really bad.
Oh, it is, and especially when you notice Tor Johnson has a hard time getting out of the cemetery. The grave.
He also can't say his lines properly.
Oh, no, he can't. No, his acting is really bad. He gives John Cena and The Rock a run for their money, being Oscar winners compared to Tor Johnson.
Yeah. Gregory Walcott, who is the star of the movie, he knew he was making crap.
Actually, I read that he said that for according to what I read on IMDb.com, he read the script and told Ed Wood it was one of the worst scripts he ever made, yet he's still committed to making this film project.
That's because his friend was a man named Ed Reynolds, who was one of the Baptists who was funding the movie, so he did it as a favor for his friend.
Right.
I wrote to Mr. Walcott the year before he died and asked him some questions, and one of the questions I asked was, what was working with Edward D. Wood Jr. like? And he responded by saying, he didn't know what he was doing.
Well, the whole film says it itself, how he looks like he had no idea like how to write a story, character arc, personalities, and...
I mean, yeah, Gregory Walcott, he knew he was making one of the worst movies of all time.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand a whole lot of what was going on while they were making it.
Right. I don't think no one knew at the time like what was the point of this film, especially how originally the original title was called Grave Robbers from Outer Space. Again, that also does not make any sense for a movie title like this. And also the film like felt like another poor man's version of a classic sci-fi, The Day the Earth Stood Still, like where the aliens were coming from outer space for peace, but yet they kept bringing back these dead zombies back to life, which made no sense.
Didn't make sense at all.
No, it didn't. It did not. And the acting is just, again, really, really bad and horrible, and just poor, like, delivery, or especially, like, when Tor Johnson, when he goes from, you know, being a detective to the zombie, he knocks one of the cops, and it's so, like, it's not even convincing. And neither is I don't remember the wife's name of the character.
Vampira?
What's that?
Vampira?
No, not Vampira, the wife. The
Ghoul's wife.
What?
I think that's what she's
No, not Ghoul's wife. The Gregory Wilcox character. His character.
Oh, I don't remember.
But anyway, the point is the woman screaming is not convincing. And it's amazing like how like he cast Vampire in this film, and how she was so iconic back in the 50s for like, you know, TV show host of like showing like classic horror movies in the 50s.
In an interview, she stated that when she first read the script, her character had dialogue, but the dialogue was so awful that she just couldn't bring herself to say it, and she asked Ed Wood to let her play the part mute, which he allowed her to do. Right.
Well, also I read that she wanted to like be like paying tribute to like one of the silent actors of the golden age of Hollywood too. I could see that, but
she was embarrassed
what's
to be
that?
there.
What's that?
I think it was more that she was embarrassed to be there.
She probably was, but at that time she was unemployed. She needed money in the job desperately after when...
Right.
Yeah, again, you do what you can. I read that Joanna Lee disowned any involvement in this film in later years. Like, if you, like, asked her to do maybe a convention signing or whatever, she refused.
Correct.
Yes. Also, like you said, she has no lines. Oh, yeah. The flying sorcerers are horrible.
Oh yeah, they're totally fake.
Oh, they are. You can tell that they're like... I don't remember how they were made out of, but you can just tell that they're just junk.
The flying saucers, you can easily tell they're on a wire.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Someone probably has them on a fishing pole.
Yes.
And he's moving them around.
Right. Well, it makes movies like Earth vs. the Flying Saucer and The Day the Earth Stood Still effect hold up very well and more convincing than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I read that supposedly that this was actually inspired, believe it or not, from UFO conspiracy theories foreshadowing how the anti-sadist became a popular thing in a decade later in the 60s. But again, I don't know how, like, interesting to read, but I don't really know how true that is for this film, like, being inspired from that, but still. Especially, like, there's, like, a lot of, like, stories about, you know, UFO conspiracy theories. People claim that they were, like, kidnapped by aliens, and... I mean, again, I'm not an expert on this, just stuff I've read and here and there and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and also, believe it or not, you know, the funny part is there's actually 2 Batman actors in this film, but not from the 60s or later Batman films, from the 40s serials, you know what I'm talking about. Like, the actors are Lyle Talbot, who played Commissioner Gordon, and Johnny Duncan, who played Robin. And I've seen the Batman serials, but it's been a long time. Have you ever seen those?
No.
Okay, they were okay. They were just fun. They weren't bad or horrible. They just were not like rewatchable like serials. It was interesting to learn. Like, okay, this is where a Batman like first started with a movie or show or whatever at that time. Yeah. Still worth checking out if you're like a huge diehard Batman fan. Check those out for like curiosity to learn a little history right there. And yeah. Also, like I said, the set designs are probably not that good in this movie either.
Oh no, I mean the gravestones especially are horrible. You can see them easily tip over.
Oh yeah, so, like Ed Wood refused to do more takes, and yeah,
they're cardboard.
Oh, they are. They are.
And yeah, gravestones aren't supposed to tip over.
Oh no, they're not. They're not. But
stone.
No, but apparently Ed Wood did not seem to care about like noticing that. He just wanted to shoot one entire scene, and that was it. And moving on, where real Hollywood profession. I made a joke to myself, if Stanley Kubrick made this film, you would have had take 1,001.
He truly thought that people wouldn't notice those things.
Oh, no, well, especially like nowadays, everybody like, you know, like with like internet Easter eggs, people point out like the little facts, like, oh, did you notice this in the background, or that, or Easter egg hunts. And also, to get, I guess we can bring this up now, we both met Conrad Brooks, but not at the same time. I met him in 2013, and
I met him in 2010.
Okay, gotcha. What did you think of like meeting Conrad Brooks?
He was very entertaining, and I think he might have been a little drunk too.
You think so?
Maybe.
Yeah, well, when I met him, he was very nice to talk to, but it's kind of sad he didn't get much attention that day.
Yeah, I actually met him twice. I met him the first time at my first Chiller Theater in 2009, and then I met him a second time at the Chiller Theater in the fall of 2010. That's when I got the photo with him.
Nice.
Yeah, I got his autograph too, and he told me, you know, Ed Wood had to only do one take because film was very expensive.
Right.
And, you know, Bela Lugosi said it was wonderful to work with.
Right, yeah, he told me the same thing too, despite I seem to hear mixed reactions on Bela Lugosi. We met Donnie Donegan, who played, and he said he was, well, because of mispronouncing his name, Bela Lugosi. And he said that Bela Lugosi had no sense of humor compared to Karloff. Yeah. Like I said, just a complete disaster film that just makes no sense, has terrible acting, story, and dialogue, and it's just so sad how this was Bela Lugosi's last film and not a way to, like, end on a high note. No. Actually, I forgot to bring this up, but, you know, I'm going to bring this up anyway. For Bride of the Monster, did you know that there was a sequel to A Night of the Ghoul?
Yeah, I heard of it.
Did you ever see it?
I never saw
Me neither, but actually, from what I read, despite that was made back in the 50s during Ed Wood's time, but it wasn't released until the 80s because of like Ed Wood's poor box office performance results. That's why the film was never released. So yeah, a film that was like made but never released 20 years later, and I bet you nobody in the 80s didn't really give a crap at that point about seeing a sequel to Bride of the Monster in the 80s, especially like there was so much better horror films that came out at that time back in the 80s. No comparison or competition in that. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I bought this off eBay a few years ago. It's a Plan 9 from Outer Space DVD signed by its star Gregory Walcott.
Cool.
He signed it right there.
Sorry for the glare. Did you meet him, or?
No, I didn't meet him, but I wrote to him through the mail, as I mentioned before, and he was kind enough to respond.
All right. And you said like he like asked him questions. And,
yep.
Right.
Mostly about Plan 9.
Right, gotcha. Also, there's one thing I want to point out: the part when the stuntman of Lugosi in this film, he gets zapped, and there's like no explanation about how that happens to him. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Also, the couple in this film, the Trents, they are very, very boring people. Would you agree?
Yeah, I suppose I would.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They were so bland and boring that it makes me wish I was watching a better film with, like, a better, like, chemistry, like Casablanca. Yeah.
Gregory Walcott long regretted having anything to do with Plan 9 from Outer Space, but eventually he warmed up to it.
Yeah, true.
He did say it's better to be known for something than for nothing.
Well, that's true. That's what they say about Ed Wood. He was known for something than nothing in Hollywood. Yeah.
Because Gregory Walcott had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
He was a noted character actor in several Clint Eastwood movies.
I read about that.
He worked with Steven Spielberg on the Sugarland Express.
Right.
Yeah, he had a pretty good career
at least
in spite of this.
Well, I feel like sometimes when like certain like actors or director, they make one bad thing, but sometimes maybe that bad thing can turn into a good thing sometimes. But it really depends. Everyone is different about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no answer behind that with people's success. Right. I guess that's all we can say about Plan 9, I guess. There's really not much I can say about it. So, yeah, Plan 9, worst film ever made. Stay tuned soon for... actually, we're going to do a Part 2 segment about Ed Wood's later career before we talk about Ed Wood. Alright, before we move on to Tim Burton's Ed Wood, I want to talk about his later career as a film director, what happened after post Plan 9 from Outer Space. I'm actually going to let Jeremy take part of that and what he's going to explain for Ed Wood's post-Plan 9 era.
Yeah, throughout the 60s and 70s, he descended into severe alcoholism and depression. He had to resort to making these pornographic films to survive.
Right.
He and his wife, Kathy, were living in this horrible area, this apartment building where they actually one time heard gunshots right outside their door.
Sounds like they lived in a rough neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Ed Wood would constantly be going to the local liquor store to feed his alcoholism.
Right.
And a lot of times he'd get mugged because he lived in such a shady area.
Right.
And he and his wife, Kathy, were both severe alcoholics.
Right.
And
oh, really? Kathy was an alcoholic, too? I didn't know that. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yep. He just spiraled downhill.
Yeah.
And it was very sad.
Yeah. I remember that one time, like, you showed a picture of, like, what he looked like in his later years, in his 50s. He looked like he was, like, older than that when...
Yeah, he looked bloated because of the alcohol.
Right. Right.
And, yeah, he died penniless, alcoholic, and depressed.
Right.
He was a depressed and penniless alcoholic, basically. Right. He and his wife had just gotten evicted from their apartment, and they were staying at a friend's apartment, and he spent the weekend just lying on the couch drinking vodka.
Probably fighting his demons at the end of his life and being depressed how his career did not go as planned.
Yeah. He yelled to Kathy to bring him a drink, but she told him to shut up because she was tired of him bossing her around.
Damn.
And they went to check on him, and he had died from a heart attack, and the look on his face, it looked like he had seen the devil.
Right. Right. Also, well, with doing this video, like as you said, we did porn films. We didn't really watch that for this retrospect because we thought it was like too much overload, and I've never seen any of his pornographic films, so I can't really make a comment on it, but I know Orgy to Dead is one of his well-known like porn films, and according to what I read from James Rolfe, it sounds like a stupid, dumb, ridiculous movie from like what I heard from his point of view perspective, especially how it makes no sense, and there's like singing and dancing in it. It's like, what does this got to do with... Yeah, it sounds like a ridiculous film, Orgy of the Dead, for what I read about the film's premise, and you didn't see it, did you? Yeah, me neither. Yeah, probably, yeah. Alright, that's wrap up his post Ed Wood. Now we'll be moving on to Tim Burton's Ed Wood soon. Alright, finally on to Tim Burton's Ed Wood. What do you think of Tim Burton's Ed Wood?
Oh, it's a great movie. It's got a lot of heart.
It does.
I like it a lot. It's got a number of inaccuracies, but
true.
Like I said, it has heart.
Oh, I love this movie. This is like one of my favorite like top of like Tim Burton films, and while like anyone like at the time being a Tim Burton fan, this is how I first learned about who Ed Wood was from this film, and when I first saw it as a teenager, I liked it, and I still love this movie. This is a film I love going back to enjoy to rewatch over and over again. It always never, gets better for me on more viewings. Johnny Depp is terrific in this film, and Martin Landau, oh my god, he is just terrific, fantastic as Bela Lugosi. And also, like, at the time, like, growing up a fan of the Universal Monsters, Karloff and Bela Lugosi, I never was aware or mindful about Bela Lugosi's drug addiction at the end of his life at the time. It's one of those things I found out later in my life compared to...
Yeah, Johnny Depp and Martin Landau are amazing.
They're terrific.
Movie.
Yes.
Martin Landau earned that Oscar.
He did. Oh, he did. He deserved it. Just like seeing like the scenes like where he's like putting like the needle, the morphine. It's just like so like depressing to watch and so like sad. Or when like also when he was almost tried to commit suicide because he had no money left or couldn't pay his mortgage, his animals. It's Just so sad.
He worked very hard to perfect Bela Lugosi's Hungarian accent.
For some reason, I thought Marlanda was Hungarian when I first saw this film as a teenager, but I was wrong.
You would think that.
Yeah.
He was that good.
Yeah. And you met Marlanda, right?
Yeah, twice.
What was it like?
Oh, he was very nice. The first time I met him at Chiller Theater, my dad took some candid photos of him, and I got one of his table photos signed from Ed Wood of him as Bela Lugosi. And I remember telling him he was great in Ed Wood, and him saying thank you. And the second time I met him was also at Chiller Theater in 2016.
Right.
And this time I had a longer conversation with him. He told me all about working with Rod Serling on The Twilight Zone and Tim Burton on Frankenweenie, going to Tim Burton's Walk of Fame ceremony.
Right.
And yeah, I got a photo with him, and this time I got him to sign a photo of him in The Twilight Zone and my Frankenweenie poster. Yeah, he signed my Frankenweenie poster as Marty Landau because he saw that I already had Martin Short on it, so he said, oh, now you don't have two Martins on it, and it's unique. But he was very nice.
Right, that's awesome.
I was very sad when I heard that he passed away.
Yeah, I really wanted to meet him too at like Chiller or something like that to tell him how much I loved his performance as like Bela Lugosi and Ed Wood. And like you said, even though this is a great film, but it's not 100% accurate. Like,
oh no,
like even though I love this film, but I'll admit there are some like minor, like, but they're really like minor where it's like I could like put that aside and still appreciate, love the film for what it is. Like the part when he's like getting ready to shoot his first scene on Glenn or Glenda. Some guy like asks, "Oh, can I please have your autograph?" He said, "I loved you in that film with Boris Karloff." And he goes, "Fuck you, Boris Karloff, that cogsucker." Because in all the years I've been a fan of those two, I never read or came across any of that where...
Oh yeah, that they were not rivals.
Right.
Him and Boris Karloff. Right. They respected each other.
Right.
You know, they weren't close friends.
No.
They had almost no relationship off set.
No. Like,
and yeah, in real life, Bela Lugosi never used foul language.
Right. That time when we met Sarah Karloff, Boris's daughter, she said that they didn't hate each other. They just were not friends offset. It's not like they like hung out outside of like film sets when they made movies.
Oh yeah, I've been meeting Sarah Karloff at Chiller Theater for many years. It's always a pleasure.
I'm sure it is. I've only met her twice, but still, she was very fun to talk to and very fun to meet.
Yeah, I also met Bela Lugosi Jr.
I want to meet him.
Bela Lugosi's son. And I remember mentioning this movie to him, and he said, yeah, he didn't have those, like, little dogs that he's shown having.
Right.
He had big dogs.
Right, gotcha. Well, it's a movie. They have to change it up to make it look good, and that's Hollywood for you.
Yeah. I mean, it has a lot of inaccuracies. Like, he was also, in real life, Bela Lugosi wasn't living alone. He was married at the time to a woman named Hope.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess they just couldn't fit her in the film somehow, in like part of the script, I guess. No, sometimes that happens. And
yeah, the movie also shows him being forced to leave rehab because he couldn't pay for it.
Right.
But in reality, he completed his rehabilitation there, and there's actually footage of him leaving the rehabilitation center, you know, all clean and everything.
Right.
So
well, again, it's Hollywood. They got to make it look dramatic to make it look good for the film and stuff. And also, I read that Bela Lugosi's son, like when people like at the time when this film came out, he said that he refused to watch it, not sure, like, knowing how it was going to do, or thinking like, what if he had like his like skepticism, not knowing like Landau was going to pull it off. And he said he didn't see this in the movie theaters when it came out. He said he rented it from like some, I don't know if it was Blockbuster. I know he rented it from a video store. I don't remember what he said exactly, but he said he rented it from a video store, and when he saw it, he goes, "Okay, I was wrong about like how this film turned out."
I think he liked Landau's performance,
he did,
but didn't like how his father was written.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't like the swearing.
Right.
He didn't like the fact that it showed Ed Wood as more of a friend to him.
Right.
Whereas in real life, Bela Lugosi Jr. referred to Ed Wood as a user,
right,
and a loser.
I did read that, according to what I read, that Bela Lugosi Jr. didn't like Ed Wood that much.
No, he didn't.
Especially, I remember once watching, like, did you ever see Christopher Lee's horror documentary, 100 Years?
Seen it.
I remember in that documentary, like, I mean, that was from the 90s, but still, according to like what when he was interviewed about like his father being such an iconic, you know, horror icon as Dracula, he said when he was a kid growing up, he said money was a big problem and a struggle at the time because it it's not like how, like, just because his dad was in Hollywood, it doesn't mean that he was not always given respect or proper roles at the time. And that's why he said he became a lawyer. And actually, I read he was a very good lawyer. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know what kind of lawyer, like, what his, like, specialty in law was. Yeah. Also, the other thing that's inaccurate, too, is he never met Orson Welles, despite that was his idol, what was one of his inspirations for becoming a filmmaker for Citizen Kane. Yeah. Yeah, and even though, like, I like Vincent D'Onofrio, a good actor, and he looks like Orson Welles, but I read that they had to dub him because, according to Tim Burton, he said his Orson Welles impression didn't sound accurate to Tim Burton.
Yeah, he dubbed his voice with a voice actor named, I think, Maurice Lamarck.
Right.
Who was able to sound more like Orson Welles.
When I first saw it as a teen, I didn't even recognize that was Vincent D'Onofrio playing Orson Welles. Yeah. And in a way, it looks just like him a little bit, convincing, but minus the dubbing part, but that's okay. Still, a small part done pretty well.
Yeah,
but the one way I look at it, imagine if Ed Wood did meet his idol, like, is he really having a conversation with one of your heroes? That's the way I look at it to some degree. Yeah. We all have that vision in our life of, but at the same time, then there's the don't meet your idols. You'll be disappointed sometimes, to a degree. Sometimes. I guess it depends on who it is.
You know, the entire cast of this movie is great.
Yeah. I like, you know, it's funny, I'm not even a big fan of, like, much of into Sarah Jessica Parker's movies, but I liked her in this film.
Yeah, she did a good job.
Yeah, she did, and even though I don't know a lot about Dolores Fuller, but, like, of course, what I've read, she did not accept Ed Wood's transvestite.
Well, I think she did at first, but, see, he promised to keep it a secret, and he didn't.
Right.
And that's when she broke it off with him. I think she also broke it off with him because of his alcoholism, but that's not portrayed in the movie.
Right. Well, in the movie, she dumped him because of how she was not she was not the lead in Bride of the Monster, and
she also didn't like how he paraded around at the rap party in women's clothes in front of everybody. Right.
Also, I don't know how true this is. The scene, like, when they're making Plan 9, like, did he really, like, have a fit and storm off set, or?
Well, I did hear that the Baptists who funded the movie were bossing him around a lot, but I don't think he ever stormed off the set. Right.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I do love, like, the chemistry that he has with Marlene down this film with Bela Lugosi. Even like you said, it's not accurate. They weren't really friends, but it's still.
Well, they might have been friends, but I don't know. Ed Wood in real life might have also just been using him. Right. Yeah.
But to some degree, like, he really gave, like, Lugosi opportunity compared to, like, other, like, people at that time.
At least he gave him work.
Yeah, true. Despite, like you said, Lugosi's son felt like he was used by Ed Wood.
Yeah, Lugosi's son felt that Ed Wood was taking advantage of his father's poverty and desperate need to work in order to put him in these lousy movies.
Right. Also, like, Mike Starr does a good job in this film. He does a small, and we met Mike Starr October 2022. We have two separate photos, but I'll still, like, put them in this editing. He was really nice to meet Mike Starr.
He was. Yeah, very nice, man.
And I asked him about, like, what was it like working with Johnny Depp on this film, and Ed Wood. He goes, "Oh yeah," he said Johnny Depp was fabulous to work with on Ed Wood.
Tim Burton too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, he said he had a lot of fun with Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Like, he plays a good, like, job playing, like, a stereotypical, like, greedy, like, Hollywood businessman who's, like, he makes a bunch of crap, but he's trying his best to really, like, make something, like, you know, good, but he just doesn't have that kind of budget, but he gives him an opportunity, but after When Glenna comes out, he, wished that he never, like, gave him the opportunity.
Yeah, because all his money went to making a piece of crap.
Right. You can't talk that way about my movie. Your movie? I wish it was your movie.
I wish I hadn't blown every dime I made into making this stink bomb.
Very harsh to say that, but it's just the fact of reality about Ed Wood's films. I hate to say it. Yeah. Also, I think it does a great job of, like, showing, like, each of the, like, his well-known films that he directed, like, what went on during the making of each of his films, and from Glen or Glenda, like, showing how it was based on his life as a transvestite, but I feel like the majority of it showed, like, the majority of, like, Bride of the Monster a lot. Yeah. Then the last half is Plan 9, his well-known worst film ever made, and also, we haven't talked about Lisa Marie as Vampire. She did a great job. She looks just like her.
Yeah, and I met her too, and she told me she met the real vampire.
Right.
She was very eccentric.
Right. And it's amazing, like, how, like, you would think that it really was the real vampire in this film, as if she was, like, you know, the same... You would think it was, like, a reincarnation to some degree, really, though she was still alive, but still, and... The actor who played Tor Johnson, he does a good job, but when I was watching Plan 9 for this, I didn't realize the different voices, like how the original Tor Johnson did not have a deep voice compared to... Was George the Animal Steel plays him in this film, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. George the Animal Steel has like a slow, light voice compared. No, I mean George the Animal Steel has a deep voice, whereas Tor Johnson had a lighter voice.
Yep. He did perfect the Swedish accent.
He did. No, he did. Just in a deeper, like, voice manner. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I like that scene, like when they're watching like White Zombie, then Vampire interrupts it, and it's nice to see like a tribute to. One of Bela Lugosi's classic horrors, White Zombie. You said you never saw that, right?
No, I never saw
that. It's good. I made a YouTube on it a couple years ago, and it's... You know what it is? That was like a film that came out like post-silent era, and it was like an early talkie film. It's like Dracula. Flawed, but yet it's good. Again, it's not flesh-eating zombie. It's mind control zombie. Yeah. Still, like, Lugosi's the highlight of that film, but again, he was always... No matter what Lugosi did, he was always the highlight to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even no matter what film he did, he always tried to pull off an Academy Award.
Oh yeah, despite whatever film he was in, he always gave the best performance he could.
Yeah, especially, as I mentioned before, he was a trained stage actor before being in Hollywood movies.
That's right.
Yeah, Ed Wood, this is just a phenomenal film. I love this film. It gets better for me every time I rewatch it over and over again. Great, like, this is probably the only good Ed Wood thing that came out of this. We got this film, his biography. Yeah. Anything else you want to touch upon with Ed Wood during the making of this film, or other thoughts? Or
I think we summed up a lot.
Yeah. Also, there is one thing I'm glad that they did. I actually like this. I'm glad this film came out in black and white.
Yeah, that's a good touch.
Because it's hard to like imagine Lugosi in color.
Yeah, although I think he did appear in one color film.
Yeah, I forget what it was.
Devil Bat.
I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Yeah. Because Tim Burton said when he... Tim Burton said when he made this film, he said like he had a hard time visioning them in color, and that's why he shot the film in black and white to pay tribute to like the classic, you know, black and white movies. And most by nowadays, people don't appreciate like black and white movies.
Yeah,
it's a sad. Well, you can't change and alter history and alter a movie to make it color.
Right.
Yeah. Because that was the time period. Films came out in black and white. That was all they had. It was expensive at the time for colorized films until what it became later when they decided to go color for films to market.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Phenomenal, excellent film. Highly recommend, especially if you're a Tim Burton fan. Definitely check this out to see one of his like rare, unusual films about a biography film about a certain like film director. And also, it's amazing. Like despite this film was not a hit when it came out.
Critically, it was successful, but financially, it wasn't.
Yeah. One of the few, like, Emilo was a good film, but one of Tim Burton's, like, not successful films at the time when it came out. Again, it was still nominated for for 2 Oscars. Well, actually, won 2 Oscars. I don't know how many other Oscars it was nominated for. Yeah. Anyway, great movie. Highly recommended. Check it out. That wraps up Ed Wood's movies. Like, subscribe, and see y'all next time. Say bye, Jeremy.
Bye, everyone.
And cut. That was perfect. Print it. We're moving on.